Hello, I'm back. I didn't expect to be back. I was planning to leave at the end of the last half hour, but Marco and Vanessa said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, I'm going home." I said, "But it's not time yet." I said, "What do you mean it's not time? ¿Cómo que no es la hora?" I said, "It's not time yet." "Yes, it is." "No, it's not." "Yes, it is." "No, it's not." "You still have a half hour left." "You still have half an hour left." "No, come on. You don't say." "No me digas." "You don't say." "Well, of course. You've only been here for 3 half-hour segments. You've only been here for an hour and a half. Is that right?" My God, I lost my notion of time. I said goodbye to you about 5 minutes ago, and I didn't realize I'm so worried about my wife at home with a 38.5 degree temperature. En América solemos decir fever para fiebre. Los británicos dicen temperatura. Tengo una temperatura. In Spanish you say fiebre. Tengo fiebre. En inglés en inglés americano decimos tengo una fiebre. I have a fever. And if you have a fever, you need a thermometer. Termómetro. Thermometer. Okay? And you put the thermometer in your mouth or under your arm. If it's in your mouth, you put it under your tongue, and you keep it under your tongue without opening your mouth for 3 minutes. Okay? And then you take it out, you look at it. Inside there's mercury, and the mercury rises and it goes along, and then you can see your temperature, the extent of your fever. Or you can put it under your arm for 5 minutes, okay? And then you take it out and look, and you check, and you say, no, it's normal, 36 degrees, 36.5, I don't know. In Fahrenheit, it's 98.6. 98.6 is the normal body temperature. And you look at the thermometer. Okay, now, my wife, I spoke to her during the break after Marco and Vanessa told me, quieto, ¿a dónde vas? I said, wait, hold on. Hold your horses. Sujeta tus caballos. Se dice eso en inglés a veces. Quieto parado. ¿A dónde vas? ¿A dónde crees que vas? Where do you think you're going? Well, I'm going home. Why? Well, it's time. No, it's not. What do you mean? ¿Qué quiere decir? ¿Cómo que no? What do you mean? You haven't finished. Yes, I have. No, you haven't. Yes, I have. No, you haven't. But it's time. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, you have to do one more program. And we went to the book and we checked, and I checked it. My God, I got completely mixed up, completely confused on the time. So I'm back. I'm back. And I'm here to teach you some more. The past tense. Are you ready? Are you ready to do something in the past? Do you like history? Well, let's talk about history. Juan Carlos I. Juan Carlos I, the King of Spain. Yeah, he was born in Rome, I think. And he grew up in Lisbon, but he got married and he's the King of Spain. When did he become the King of Spain? When did Juan Carlos I become? Se dice en inglés Juan Carlos el primero, Felipe el segundo, Felipe segundo, Philip the second, Charles the first, Carlos primero, Carlos quinto, Charles the fifth, all right, Leopold the first, etc. When did Juan Carlos I become the King of Spain? He became the King of Spain in 1975. When did he become the Prince of Spain? Officially. When was he formally announced the Prince? I don't know. 1962? You can tell me. I don't know. Did the Roman Empire fall 100 years or 400 years after Christ? When did the Roman Empire fall? Well, the Roman Empire fell officially in 475. So, the Roman Empire fell 475 years after the birth of Jesus of Nazareth. Okay, after the birth of Jesus of Nazareth. But that's not really true. Because if it's correct that the Roman Empire fell 475 years after Christ, historians will tell you no, 479 years after Christ. Because according to historians, Jesus of Nazareth was born in 4 antes de Cristo, which sounds strange, but he was born 4 years before Christ. And where was he born? Where was Jesus of Nazareth born? He was born in Bethlehem. Okay. Bethlehem is a town not far from Jerusalem, a bit to the south of Jerusalem, on the way to the Dead Sea. If you want to travel from Jerusalem to the Dead Sea, to visit Masada or Engedi, or just simply to visit the Dead Sea, you pass near or through Bethlehem. Decís aquí Belén. Aquí we say Bethlehem, much longer. And he was born in Bethlehem, but his family wasn't from Bethlehem. His family was from Nazareth. Nazareth, which is located north of Jerusalem, in fact, quite far north. Okay? Not too far from the Sea of Galilee. You remember that in the New Testament, many things take place in and around the Sea of Galilee. Many of the fishermen who joined as disciples of Jesus of Nazareth were from that area. And Nazareth is located probably, about 20 miles, 30 kilometers, I don't remember, from the Sea of Galilee. Not too far from a town called Tiberias, which is on the sea. But Bethlehem, that's where he was born, because his parents needed to go to Bethlehem for the census, el censo. They had to go there. So he was born there. And during the night, after he was born, his father Joseph heard a voice telling him to take the little baby and his wife to Egypt to escape possible death. And on 3 days after the birth, Herod sent soldiers to kill every male child, I think under the age of 2. Okay? That was called El Día de los Santos Inocentes. And they went to Egypt. Okay. Now, according to the timetable, the legend, 12 days later, the 3 wise men, or the 3 kings, los Reyes Magos, arrived to present gifts to the baby Jesus. I suppose it was in Egypt. Maybe it was in Bethlehem or in Nazareth. I don't know, okay, where they did it. Okay, so the question, did the Roman Empire fall 100 or 475 years after Christ? The Roman Empire fell 475 years after the birth of Christ. The Roman Empire lasted for a long time as an empire. With an emperor, it lasted about 500 years. Because before it was a republic. Rome was a republic before it became an empire. And before Rome was a republic, it was a monarchy. There were kings in Rome. The first 200 or 300 years of the life of Rome, it was a kingdom, very small. Then it became a republic. And then probably in the year 27 or 28 BC, or the year 30 BC, before Christ, it became an empire under Augustus. After Augustus, or Octavian, his original name, defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra in the Battle of Actium, and then finally established the empire. So, Rome fell. Insisto en esto porque quiero insistir en el pasado del verbo to fall. Okay. Every day I fall, yesterday I fell. Every weekend I fall, last weekend I fell. No hay sonido de T aquí porque no hay T. El pasado del verbo sentir, to feel, sí tiene T, felt. I feel a little tired today, and I felt tired yesterday. I feel a little tired today, and the day before yesterday I also felt a little tired. Pero aquí estamos con el verbo caer. Okay. Los precios cayeron el año pasado. Prices fell. Y la tendencia de añadir, por favor, no. Fell. Me caí cuando llegué aquí. I fell when I got here. I fell down. Fell down. Okay? To fall. And the Roman Empire fell, finally. It was a big empire. Okay, did the miners find gold or silver in California during the 19th century? They found gold. Gold. Gold was discovered in California in 1848. Yes, probably about 30 miles from the city of San Francisco, but at that time, San Francisco was not a very big city. It was a good port, but it was a small community. In 1848, gold was discovered. But the boom of all the people who went to California to look for gold was in 1849. Okay, 1849. 1849. Probably, do you remember Joe Montana and Jerry Rice? ¿Os suena Joe Montana? No? Okay. He's one of the most famous football players, American football, in the history of American football. And he played for los 49ers de San Francisco, los del 49. And it goes back to the miners. When they discovered gold in California in 1848, by the beginning of 1849, it became clear that there was a lot of gold in California. And everybody wanted to go to California to get rich. And so, California, boom or bust, and people began to cross the entire continent. That was very dangerous. And it took a long time, and a lot of Indians, 2 mountain ranges. So some people crossed from Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Chicago, or Toledo, Ohio, who knows? But they started crossing in covered wagons. I don't know what you call those things. What do you call those carretas con cubiertas de lona? Covered wagons. Wagon es una carreta o un carro de estos, pulled normally by horses, and they're covered to protect you from the elements. And those covered wagons had to cross the Mississippi River, the Missouri River. They had to cross the Great Plains, grandes llanuras, with Indians, the Sioux, the Cheyenne, the Blackfoot, the Kiowa, the Comanche. They had to cross. It was quite dangerous. Then they reached Colorado, and they had the Rocky Mountains, the first range. They had to go over that. That's very, very high. Okay? That's about 4,000 meters, 3,800 meters. And then they went down into the area that is Utah, Salt Lake, and they crossed Utah, Nevada, like a desert. And then they had the California mountains, which are even taller than the Colorado mountains. The mountains of California are very, very high mountains, and many people died. And then they go down and to the area near San Francisco to look for gold. That was one route. Other people decided to sail from New York, from Washington, from Baltimore, from Boston, and to sail down into the Caribbean and to go to Panama and to cross the Isthmus of Panama. But at that time, the Panama Canal didn't exist, okay? Which meant they had to cross 100 kilometers of jungle, dense tropical forest with mosquitoes, with malaria, yellow fever, and other problems. And many people died crossing those 100 kilometers to reach the Pacific, more or less where Núñez de Balboa saw the Pacific for the first time, the first European, and then to sail to California. And finally, another important group of future miners, another important group, sailed down all the way to the tip, La Punta, the tip of South America, Cape Horn, Cabo de Hornos, and they went around and up. That was a very long journey, dangerous, especially if they tried to save time going through the Strait of Magellan, because the Strait of Magellan, the Estrecho de Magallanes, the Strait of Magellan is very dangerous. But you save maybe 3 or 4 days of sailing if you go through the Strait of Magellan. But you can die much easier in the Strait of Magellan than going around the Cape Horn and then up to the other side. Hard life, and that was only 150 years ago, basically, or 160 years ago. Okay, not too long ago. Now, if you live in New York or Boston, it takes 5 hours. by flight. You can do it in 5 hours. In 1849, it took 1 year. 1 year sometimes, or 8 months, 6 months. It took at least half a year to go from the East Coast to the West Coast in the United States. We have progressed a lot in 150 years. Now we can do it in 5 hours. In fact, do you know how long it took to go from Madrid to New York 100 years ago? If you wanted to go from 100 years ago in the year 1908, okay, and there's still some people living in Spain and in New York who were living at that time as little children or babies. In 1908, to go from Madrid to New York took probably 8 days. You needed to take a train from Madrid to Cadiz or Huelva or Vigo or Coruña to catch a ship and cross the Atlantic Ocean. And in all, probably 7 or 8 days. Now, 7 hours. We've advanced a lot in 100 years, 7 hours. And you know, aviation technology is not high-tech. There are many high-tech things in an airplane, yes, but it's basic, the technology is middle technology. It's aeronautical technology. Computer technology, bring it over here, computer technology has progressed tremendously. And if we took the progression in computer technology from 1965 to now and compared it with aviation technology from 1965 to now, the difference would be very interesting. In 1965, with a Boeing 707, it took 8 hours to fly from Madrid to New York. 8 hours. Now, it takes 7. So we have improved 1 hour since 1965. All right? And of course, there are some military planes, or maybe the Concorde, that can fly from Madrid to New York in 3.5 hours. So with the best technology, we've reduced 8 hours to 3.5 hours. Okay? Now, if we compare computer technology in that same period of time, to fly from Madrid to New York would take 1 second. Can you imagine? You go to the airport, you get in the plane, and 1 second later, you're in New York. That's the progress in computer technology, okay? How fast we have improved, and the changes in the power and the applications from computer technology. But there's something very important. Computers often break, they have problems, and in planes, you can't. Safety is priority, always, in flying. But in any case, the miners flying from New York to San Francisco in 5 hours now. In 1849, it took them half a year, and sometimes a year, and sometimes they never arrived. To look for gold, the miners, los mineros, minando oro, in the rivers and in the mountains. Okay, the next one. When the Beatles were together, did they fly to a lot of countries or only to a few countries? Well, when the Beatles were together, they flew to many countries. They flew to Spain, they came to Spain, they went to France, they went to the United States, they flew to Australia, they flew to India, they flew to Japan to fly. Okay? Usamos mucho el verbo to fly. En español usáis ir, el verbo ir en avión. Pero en inglés solemos usar los verbos de locomoción. Anduve al trabajo, volé al trabajo, nadé al trabajo. Imagine you live on one side of the river and your job is on the opposite side. And the river isn't dangerous. So you decide every morning, instead of crossing the bridge and walking to work, that you need exercise and you swim to work. In Spanish, normally you use the verb to go plus the transport way. I went to work, fui andando, fui en coche, fui en avión, fui en tren, fui a nado, literalmente, fui a arrastrando el cuerpo. In English, no. I walked to work. I flew to work. I drove to work. I ran to work. Fui corriendo. Entonces, en vez de usar ir más un verbo en gerundio, usamos el verbo. Corrí al trabajo. Anduve al trabajo. Conduje al trabajo. Nadé al trabajo. I swam to work. I drove to work. I walked to work. And so people say, Frank, how do you go to work every day? I walk. You walk? You must live near your office. Well, 2 miles. You walk to work? 2 miles? Yeah, I walk to work. I like to walk to work. Aquí dirías, me gusta ir andando hasta la oficina. Me gusta ir andando. Me gusta ir caminando. Pero en inglés decimos, me gusta andar al trabajo. I like to walk to work. And do you walk to work even when it's raining? Well, I have an umbrella. I have a big umbrella, the golf umbrella, okay? I like to walk to work. Okay, so when the Beatles were together, did they fly to a lot of countries or only to a few countries? They flew to a lot of countries. When you were 2 years old, I'm talking to you. When you were 2 years old, did you grow quickly or slowly? Probably you grew quickly. Probably you grew quickly. To grow. Grew, grown. When I was a little boy, I grew quickly in some years and less quickly in other years. I was the tallest in my class when I was 11. By the time I was 13, I wasn't. And by the time I was 15, I wasn't. By the time I was 15, when I was 11, I often played center in basketball, in pivot, because I was the tallest. By the time I was 15, jugaba de base. My position was guard, como guardia. That's what we say, base, guard, point guard. I was very fast, so they put me at guard, and I was not the tallest. I was one of the shortest, and I was 1.80 meters, but that's not tall enough to be a forward or a pivot or a center. Okay, so when I was growing up, some years I grew quickly, and other years I grew less quickly. Fijaos, en un caso he puesto up al final del verbo to grow, y en otros dos casos no. Escuchadlo de nuevo. When I was growing up, there were some years in which I grew quickly, and there were other years in which I didn't grow quickly, or in which I grew less quickly. When I was growing up, to grow up is hacerse mayor. Realmente criarse is to grow up. Me crié en Texas y en Oklahoma. I grew up in Texas and in Oklahoma. Y cuando me criaban mis padres, when I grew up, I grew quickly. Crecer físicamente, de aumentar de tamaño, is to grow. Una planta crece. Nunca crece up. A plant doesn't grow up. A plant grows. Okay? My plant grows. Okay? Tu confianza puede que crezca. Your confidence may grow. Your confidence cannot grow up. Una empresa puede crecer. A company can grow. El déficit comercial, la balanza de pagos, puede crecer. It can grow. Never grow up. Grow up solamente es criarse. O hacerse mayor. O en plan figurativo, cuando incluso a un adulto, oye, no seas infantil. A veces se dice en inglés, grow up. Hazte mayor de una vez. No seas infantil. Grow up, come on. You're 33 years old now. You have a lot of responsibilities. You have a wife and 2 children and a mortgage to pay. Grow up. Okay? Life is not romantic. There's a lot of realities in life, okay? So to grow. And when I was growing up, there were some years in which I grew quickly and other years in which I didn't grow so quickly. I grew slowly. Grew, la pronunciación. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I only covered 5 sentences. The next sentence is about Don Quixote, Moby Dick, and Miguel de Cervantes. Interesting sentence, but I don't have time today. I'll come back another day to talk about Cervantes, Herman Melville, Moby Dick, Don Quixote de la Mancha, and many other things that are interesting in English. All right. Finally, I can go home. All right. But nevertheless, it's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed being with you immensely, and I hope you've enjoyed being with me. Thank you, and see you tomorrow.